Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Chika here. I'm excited to have this discussion today with you because it's really important that as young Africans, we get in tune with what's happening on the continent. So let's just dive straight into it. Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, Senegal, and now Ivory Coast. Now, what do all these countries have in common? If you said they speak French, well, you're not wrong, because actually they all speak French. However, there's one more thing that's been happening lately that's common to all of these countries. They've asked France to remove all military installations from their country. And now that's a significant step for these countries to take, because for decades, France has maintained a military presence in this country, right? In these countries rather. And, maintaining this presence has allowed them to not just exert military power, but they've also been able to exert cultural influence. They've also been able to exert economic influence. There's also been, some political influence in certain places as well. And so for many countries, it worked for some time, but it no longer serves any purpose, right? And for some others, they're actually questioning if it ever worked, or we just couldn't speak up and say, look, you need to go. So today we're going to take a look at all of these countries and why exactly they have asked France to leave. If you're just joining this channel for the first time, welcome. My name is Chika. I'm a journalist, and for over a decade, I've been covering stories across Nigeria and West Africa as a journalist. So I'm excited to take you on this journey with me, and I hope you would love it just as much as I actually enjoyed the process of putting together these videos for you. Okay, so do me a favor, please subscribe, like this video, share as wide as you can, and always leave a comment in the comment section so that we can have a conversation every time I post up a video. It would be great to hear what you think of the videos that I make, and if you've got any ideas on whatever videos that I should make, I'd love to hear them too. So with that said, let's dive straight into it. We'll begin with Ivory Coast, the latest of all of these countries to ask France to leave. So it all happened at the end of 2024 when the president Alassane Ouattara was giving his end of year speech, and the Ivorian president said that the Ivorian military is now effective, and so the French should leave. That was it. No other reason was given. Now, many people say that, first of all, this was unexpected because Alassane Ouattara is, very cozy with the French. He's very cozy with Paris. And so it hit them as a surprise, like, you're in bed with them. Why would you kick them out? And so there are skeptics who are saying, look, maybe this is actually not exactly Ouattara's idea. It could be France coming out to say, hey, look, it would appear that our presence on the continent is no longer as popular as it used to be decades ago. So how about we have a strategic exit in this manner? So, some skeptics are saying, look, it is just, giving with the right hand and taking back with the left, and they don't exactly think that the French is leaving. But what we do know right now is that President Ouattara of Ivory Coast has asked France to leave the country. Some other people are saying, look, Ouattara might be trying to save face and gain some popularity with the people ahead of the forthcoming elections in the country. It's not clear whether he intends to run for office again, right? Because the last time he did run for office, there was some pushback from the opposition. So it's not clear if he wants to run for office anymore, because he has not expressly given his intention or made his intention known to run, at least at the time of recording this video. However, many people expect that the subject of France having its military installation in the country could be a really big talking point going into this election, and so Ouattara might be trying to buy himself some popularity with this move. And by the way, if he does run for office next time, he's going to be running for a fourth term in office. It's a pretty big deal, right? If you're Ivorian and you can, give us more context, I'd love to hear from you. Drop it in the comment section. Now, away from Ivory Coast, let us move over to Mali, where, in many ways, a lot of these things started from. Now, back in August 2020, a group of soldiers from the Malian armed forces carried out a mutiny and seized power from the civilian government in Bamako. They said that the civilian government was unable to stop the increasing levels of violence that was taking place in the country. Now, France denounced the coup completely, and that only seems to make things worse, because the Malian military that had taken over power from the civilian government in a coup said, well, look, France, you are behind this. You're behind all the violence in the country. You're meddling in our affairs and you need to leave. By the way, this led to a wave of protests. A lot of people poured out into the streets in Bamako and just across France, across Mali rather. They were waving the Russian flag and asking France to leave. And in many ways, this coup set the pace for, what was going to take place in other countries as well. I'm referring to the coup now. So in the coming months, we sort of saw coups take place in Burkina Faso, in Niger, in Guinea, and Gabon. And so in June the following year, President Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, announced that the French troops would leave the Sahel in a phased out manner. So they were going to carry out the exit from the Sahelian country in stages. And by December 2 years ago, that's in December 2023, the exit was complete. But since then, Mali has strengthened ties with Russia. There are people who say, look, that there are Wagner forces on the ground in Mali carrying out military activities. And some skeptics are asking, did we just trade one colonial master for the other? Because they don't quite believe that Mali and Russia could ever have an alliance as peers. And they, in fact, think that Mali just traded one colonial master for another. It will be interesting to see what the relationship between Mali and Russia morphs into over the next couple of decades. Now, that being said, let's move over to Burkina Faso, where the current military government seized power in 2022 on the back of resentment against a civilian government that they had seen as powerless against armed groups. Rebel forces, militants, insurgents were running amok across the country, and so they needed to put a stop to it. And the Burkinabe military thought that the French military weren't doing enough to stem the spread of these militant groups across the country, and so they asked the French troops to leave Burkinabe soil within a month. It was swift. Just 1 month was all the Burkinabe military gave the French troops to leave, and they complied. At the time I was putting this together, some 300 Russian troops are thought to have arrived in the country in January 2024. So that's the state of Burkina Faso's relationship with France at the moment. Away from Burkina Faso, let's go to Niger, where as the civilian governments in neighboring countries began to fall, the military there also staged a coup. It was problematic, because now many people were wondering, okay, which is going to be next to fall to the military in their country? We're already seen several civilian governments run over by the military, and now Niger, obviously seeing what was happening, went in there and did the same thing, and that sort of sent a wave of shock across West Africa. People were not quite sure, okay, will it happen to Nigeria next? Will it be Ghana? Many people were quite tense given the wave of coups that were taking place across the continent. When the coup took place in 2023, it overthrew President Mohamed Bazoum, and many Nigerians marched in favor of the military at the time. They were waving Russian flags and they called for French troops stationed in Niamey to leave. And so in December 2023, the military government expelled French soldiers. That was also a very big deal in the ECOWAS as well, because the Nigerian government, tried to impose its might on Niger. President Bola Tinubu had just come into power then, and he had blocked, the borders between Nigeria and Niger. That stifled the flow of goods and services between these two neighboring countries. They cut off electricity supply to the country. In response, the Nigerian military government closed their airspace to flights headed to Nigeria. It was problematic. They sent back all of the emissaries that we sent there to have a conversation with the co-leaders. It was problematic for a long time until gradually both countries started seeing eye to eye on certain issues. There's a whole lot that happened within that period. I'm going to link some reading notes down in the description below so that you can do some more reading for yourself to get a sense of how things played out at the time between Niger, Nigeria, and ECOWAS at large. Now, again, if you've come this far, thank you very much. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying the conversation and, just the stories around all of these countries and how they've been chasing out or how they've managed to chase out the French troops stationed in their countries so far. Now, let us move on to Senegal. This was quite recent. In November 2024, President Bassirou Diomaye Faye said that France should shut down its military bases from this year because French military presence was not in line with Senegal's sovereignty, right? And this was after Senegal marked 80 years after a colonial era massacre that saw French troops kill tens of West African soldiers angry at their treatment after fighting for Paris in World War II. At the time, that this announcement was made, there were about 350 French troops stationed in the country, right? And so Senegal said, look, it's time to go. It's time to go. We feel like this has overstretched its usefulness, or you've overstayed your welcome and would love to take care of our own affairs from here on out. Let's talk about one other country that's really close to Nigeria, and that's Chad. You see, also in November last year, Chad announced that it was ending its military pacts with France, which has been in place since 1960. The country happens to be a key link in France's military presence in Africa and its last foothold in the wider Sahel region, right? At the time, Chad's foreign minister called France an essential partner, but it must also consider that Chad has grown up and its maturity, its sovereignty has sort of matured, and that it now wants to protect its own sovereignty. And as a result, the almost 1,000 French troops stationed in the country had to pack their bags and get up out of there. And that's the situation with Chad as we know it. Recently in an interview, the Nigerian head of state accused the Nigerian government of entering into an agreement that allows French troops, open up a base in Nigeria, but the Nigerian government quickly shut that down and said none of such agreement was in place and that Nigeria is a sovereign country and will continue to protect its sovereignty. I guess, at the end of it all, these countries say that they are tired of being subjected to France's unending colonialism and want total freedom. Over time, they've continued to question the efficiency of France's military presence in the country. So they say, look, you have your military stationed in this country. You say you're a strong military power, but we still see insurgents running wild. I mean, who can forget Nigeria's 10-year battle with insurgency or even more? And in some parts of Nigeria, there are still pockets of insurgency here and there. But, it's not as bad as it was a couple of years ago. And at the time, many people said, look, and when I mean many people, I mean, security experts, they said that a lot of these guns and the ammunition and even the insurgents themselves were coming all the way down, from northern Africa through the Sahel into Nigeria. And so many are asking, look, if that is the case, why are we having French troops here if you cannot help us? Because that's the main reason why you wanted to have boots on ground. The wider Sahel region, we're seeing Al-Qaeda, we're seeing ISIS run wild. And, for a lot of these countries, France has little or nothing to offer them in terms of military protection, and now they want to take their future into their hands. So it'll be interesting to see if these countries that have chased France out are able to completely protect their borders and chase out all rebel forces, all militant groups, and just sort of be responsible for their own safety, and ensure that their troops have all the resources, the weapons, and even the training to effectively combat insurgency. Now, while all of this is happening, some people are wondering, okay, now that we've asked French troops to leave, what's going to happen next? Are we going to see these countries who use the favour that is currently backed by France drop it? Because that's a different conversation altogether. A lot of these countries still use the favour that is backed by France, and so when France coughs, they catch a cold. It's not the best of relationships, but it's what they have right now. And we will talk about that in a later video, but right now, let me know your thoughts on all of this info that I've just shared with you. Talk to me in the comment section. Let me know how you're thinking of this. If there is any points that I may have missed out, I'm happy to hear from you. If you have a counter position to anything that I've said, hey, look, bring it on. We can have a conversation. After all, we're Africans. And that's it for this video. If you've loved it, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.